Boisai, let's go for it. Let's have a party today. All right. Lo Sichoneim. We have Klal Yisroel is conquering the 7 nations, led by Yeshua. And the pasuk in Parashas V'aschanan says that after talking about conquering them, Lo Sichoneim, you should not do something with these nations, with these people, with the Goyim. What does that mean, Lo Sichoneim? So we actually based the Gemara in Avodah Zarah based on the pronunciation of the word, makes the basic limud with 2 yiturim, and we learn 3 dinim. What are the 3 dinim? So it's a packed 2 words. Overloaded maybe. Packed words. Lo Sichoneim. What did we learn? Lo titin lahem chaniya b'karka. You cannot give these people a encampment in the land. Simply speaking, don't sell them land in Eretz Yisroel. Number 2, lo titin lahem chen. Right? You also see one word that you saw in the pasuk, in that root of Sichoneim. You saw the word chaniya, encampment, and you also see the word chen. So don't praise them. Don't give them. Don't praise them. Don't give them chen. These goyim. And number 3, lo titen lahem matana shel chinam. Do not give them a matana shel chinam. No free gifts for these people. Okay, who are we talking about? This issur. Who's the pasuk referring to? So, if you're going to follow the pasuk in Pashup Pshat, you're probably going to assume it's referring to the 7 nations. These 7 nations, don't give them land, don't praise them, and don't give them gifts. And that's how the Torah Tamima Taka learns. Torah Tamima learns that that's what you're not supposed to give. Now, Torah Tamima, I'm quoting a pretty late source. Torah Tamima, he died in like 1903 or something like that. So it's not so long ago. What did the Mefarshim until then say? So we have the Rashba, the Meiri, and the Sefer Chinuch that say this issur applies to all goyim that are oved avodah zarah. Not just specifically the 7 nations, but any goyim that are oved avodah zarah, you cannot give them chen, you cannot sell them land, you cannot praise them, you cannot give them presents. Fine. Whereas Tosfos, Beis Yosef, and the Sma and the Shach all say it applies to all non-Jews, whether they are oved avodah zarah or whether they're not oved avodah zarah. It applies to them all. Now, Torah Tamima seems to be arguing on all the Rishonim, and that's why the Torah Tamima is not accepted. If anybody knows a little bit about the Torah Tamima, it's a beautiful sefer in a way, but he has a lot of controversial things that people were upset about. This is one of those examples where he pretty much says his own pshat, which seems somewhat reasonable, but it's arguing on all the Rishonim, and l'maisa it's not accepted. Now, why didn't the Rishonim take on the pshat of the Torah Tamima? If the psukim were talking about the 7 nations, and we have this issur right there, why don't we assume, like the Torah Tamima, that it's referring to them? And the answer is pretty simple if you think about it. You're right from a pure structural standpoint of location of issur. It sounds like it's talking about the 7 nations. However, what are we supposed to do with the 7 nations? Destroy them, kill them, wipe them out. Usually when you're killing somebody and you're wiping them out, you're usually not selling them land in the middle of the process while praising them and giving them free gifts. It doesn't really fit the general picture. So therefore, that's the reason l'chayra that all the other Rishonim and Achronim felt that it wasn't specifically talking about those 7 nations. But the question is it specifically talking about Ovdei Avodah Zarah, as the Rashba Meiri Sefer Chinuch say, or is it also talking about any goyim, as we see in the Tosfos, Beis Yosef, and the Shach? Now, what does the Rambam say? So the Rambam says the issur applies to Oved Kechavim. What does Oved Kechavim mean? People that worship stars. That usually means Oved Avodah Zarahniks. We view worshiping stars usually as being Oved Avodah Zarah. Now, I heard somebody claim that the Rambam, I was listening to a share, and somebody said that the Rambam really meant Goyim, all nations, but it was because of the censors that it got switched to Oived Chachavim. That's what I heard. But then I looked up the Rambam, and nah. The Rambam is following through the couple of sifim before him. He's talking about you're not allowed to sell this to the Oived Chachavim because they're going to use it for Avodah Zarah, and there's a whole thing which is clearly the couple of the halachas before that are all talking about real Avodah Zarah type of stuff. So therefore, the whole flow of it didn't sound, and the reasons, it just didn't sound like it was actually true, and I think whoever said it was mistaken. So I'll leave their name out. Okay. Now, fine. Now, how do we pass on Lamaisa? Zok the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to, for example, when we're talking about Matana, he says you're not allowed to give a present to Oived Chachavim. What does Oived Chachavim mean? Simply, once again, Oived Chachavim sounds like idol worshiper, which we call star worshippers, which is like idol worshippers, Oived Avodah Zarah. But once again, it's very hard to make diukim about this because there was always censors around. There was always the goyim who looked through the Jewish stuff, and especially you had a lot of the people that went off the derech who knew how to look through a Shulchan Aruch and would look through to try to catch the Jews out. And therefore, historically, a lot of times they wrote Oived Chavim like us, worshippers of the stars, and we don't know necessarily what they meant. So it's not clear from the Shulchan Aruch to make a diuk, but if we take it at face value, it sounds like just Oived Avodah Zarah, but it's not so clear. Furthermore, when you look at however, in the Shulchan Aruch, if you look at the halachas leading up to that, those are talking about Oived Avodah Zarah. They're talking about the halachas you're not allowed to sell to a goy before a goy who's Oived Avodah Zarah. You can't sell him the type of things that he would worship. So you can't sell incense to the guy that worships incense, and you can't sell, whatever it is to the guy, the Hindu that worships cows. You can't sell him a cow. Once again, this is assuming they have nowhere else to get it. Those are the halachas beforehand. So the flow sounds like it's talking about Oived Avodah Zarah. However, the shach, and we're usually machmer for most shachs, the shach says it applies to all goyim. So these issur, which we're going to get into more detail in a minute, the shach holds it applies to all goyim. Who is Oived Avodah Zarah? Mihu Oived Avodah Zarah. So the Arabs are not considered Oived Avodah Zarah. They believe in Allah. They believe in one God. And once again, we might have different views of what God wants than they do, but it's not Avodah Zarah. It's belief in God. And, Muhammad, in their view, he was just a prophet. So even though we think he wasn't a prophet, but we don't, there's nothing wrong with that from a Oived Avodah Zarah standpoint. What Hindus and Buddhists, that we do consider Avodah Zarah. What about Christians? Are Christians Oived Avodah Zarah? So this is one of these old machlokes. So you have on one hand, you have Tosfos in two places, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, the Binyan Sion, that say that Christianity is not Avodah Zarah. Whereas on the other side, you have the Rambam and the Noidim Yehuda and the Chassam Sofer that say that Christianity is Avodah Zarah. Then you have, which seems very logical, you have Ravadia, he brings the Machzah Shekel, that says it depends. There's different sects of Christianity. Those that believe that there's a hierarchy, that believe that there's God and at a lower level is the mamzer, so then that's not Avodah Zarah. You might be mistaken by praying to a mamzer, whatever, but that's not Avodah Zarah. Whereas those that equate on equal level and equal footing God and the mamzer, that would be Avodah Zarah. Yes?
Isn't davening to something that's not Hashem, isn't that what Avodah Zarah is?
So davening to something that is not Hashem, but it's a tois, so to speak, it's a mistake. However, we also believe in koiches. Once again, we generally don't daven to our koiches, but we believe there are malachim, etc., that have different powers and things that could be done. So therefore, it's once the being isn't, according to the shita at least, isn't equated with God, is on an equal footing, according to the Machs Shekel, that doesn't qualify as a Avodah Zarah.
I also once heard, I don't really know what it means, that for someone who's not Jewish, Christianity is shituf or something?
Shutuf, yeah, that would be considered Avodah Zarah. When shutuf means partnership. So if you view this, according to this Machs Shekel, if you view that God and the mamzer are on equal levels, then that's called that you believe in a shutuf. You believe in an equal partner. But if they're different levels, the Machs Shekel holds it's not. We don't need to give a grace of share in Christianity, but he holds it's not shutfis. However, the other shitas, the Rambam, he doesn't care which sect of Christianity you are. Even if you would hold that the mamzer is a lower level, that still doesn't make it avodah zarah. Okay, beseder. Now, there's old machlokes. I happen to think the Machs Shekel that Ravadia brings makes a lot of sense. But L'maisa, this is an old machlokes. So how are we going to paskin over here? First of all, even by Arab, how are we going to paskin? Is it going to be allowed? And by the way, just before I do that further, so, I'll bring the Shevet Levi. The Shevet Levi says that this L'maisa to give a gift or praise, or as we're going to discuss in a minute, those halachas to even an Arab it's a suffix, and suffix derives to the chumrah, and therefore we're makbid not to give gifts, praise, or land to Arabs, even if they're not ovid avodah zarah. We're makbar in the shayla, and that is the minhag. And everybody agrees, however, you're allowed to give to, let's say, land to a ger toshev. Because there seems to be a pasuk that includes there's a drasha that tells us we could give land to a ger toshev. What is a ger toshev? A ger toshev is somebody that we let live in Eretz Yisroel who's maskim. There's a different shitas, but the way that we paskin, maskim to keep the Shevet Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and believe that the Torah, according to some at least, believe that the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael. Somebody that accepts that and believes that even though they don't keep Shabbos and there's no tension, they're not Jewish, but we let such a person live in Eretz Yisroel, we'll even sell them land. Okay. So, fine. So let's get involved one by one. We have the issur matana, as we were darshan from the pasuk Lo Sichoneim, Lo titin lahem matana shalchinam. Right? So Tosfos says, however, that you could give a gift to a guy that you know, that you're makir, that you know him. Why? Because it's like a mecher, it's like a mechira, it's like a sale. You could give a present to a guy you recognize because it's like a sale. Very strange. If the Torah says you can't give gifts, what does the Tosfos saying? You could give one to it's like a sale. It's not a sale, it's a gift. Furthermore, the Shulchan Aruch actually goes with this. The Shulchan Aruch says you can't give a gift to a guy that you don't recognize. It's also to give a gift to a guy you don't recognize. Let's make a diak there. A guy that you do know, you could give a gift to. What's going on? It didn't say that in my Gemara. My Gemara said you cannot give a gift to a guy.
But what's this thing with shachinam? I'm saying for no reason.
Very good. Excellent. Geschmack. Agreed. I'm getting there in a second. Gilan, you nailed it. Now, the Taz explains further. You can give a gift to a guy you know because it's like a deal. It's a deal for something you want to get in the future, or it's paying the guy back for what you have already received. So if you're giving the guy something, you're not giving him something for nothing, but you're giving him something for something. Nobody ever said you can't do business with the guy. So there's different types of business. What's corporate gifting? What's that all about? Why do people give presents why do I give presents to my clients?
For business.
I love you guys. But besides that, there's a financial interest in giving presents to my clients because I want them to have positive feelings towards me. And that's what everybody does in business. So is that really a gift? It's not really a gift. It's a deal. Or if somebody does me a favor and I go and send them a fruit platter because they did me a favor, even though that might not be, maybe I want something in the future, But even if I don't want it in the future, it's still like there's some element of transaction here. So the Taz is Chiddush, it's even if I already got, I could go and pay back because it's a transaction. It's transactional, not loving. Okay, so why is that allowed? Once again, business is allowed. Gift is not allowed. And I think this comes from the diak that Gilan pointed out that we can make in the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't say, Loi titin lahem matana. The Gemara says, Loi titin lahem matana shel chinam. Chinam. You cannot give them a free gift. What does that imply? You're allowed to give them a gift that's not free. Corporate gifting is a gift that's not free. Gifting your client is a gift that's not free. There's a reason for it. And that is allowed. And how did the Gemara know that? To say, Loi titin lahem. Why did the Gemara just say, don't give matana? What's matana shel chinam? Well, that's the whole drasha from the pasuk. Lo Sichoneim is coming from the lashon of chinam. So the whole pasuk indicates that it's only a free gift. So if it's not a free gift, it would be allowed. Fine, beautiful. Now, can you give money to a goyish charity? So off the bat, it would seem no. If we have an issur of giving matana to a goy, so we have an issur giving a matana to a goyish charity. Give me a second. If you still have the question, go for it. But however, it's Mefersheh Gemara, and the Shulchan Aruch brings it down, that we could give money to goyish charities, b'shum eva. If the Jews would not donate to goyish charities, the goyim would not be very happy with us. If we didn't give money to goyish ani, they would hate us, and therefore, to prevent the hatred, we're allowed to give presents or donations. Now, I was wondering, do from people have an obligation nowadays to give money to goyish charities? Why? We all know that all these hospitals and all these universities, there's so much money that the non-frum Jews are giving to all these hospitals and all these charities. Does it look bad if the frum people don't give? I don't think so. I don't think the world makes such a specific differentiation. It says, the frum people aren't giving. I think that we see a lot of Jewish last names. There's a lot of Goldsteins and Friedmans and whatever that are giving to all these universities and hospitals and whatever. I think we are covered in that respect. Now, let me ask you a question. Can I donate to a goyish charity anonymously? L'chayra not. Because l'chayra, if the whole heter is mishum eva, that there shouldn't be hatred, so that's why I'm allowed to give a present. Well, if you give it anonymously, you go online to their website, you put in your credit card information, you donate. L'chayra, that's usur. And when you're walking down the street and you give money to that non-Jewish guy on the side of the street, so if you have your tzitzis out and your yarmulke on, Gevaldik, Misham Eva, that's fine. But let's say you're wearing your baseball cap. I'm not talking about the Yankee cap with the payas coming out. Let's say you don't have the payas coming out and it's not a Yankee cap, so nobody knows you're Jewish. So, could you go and give him? L'chayra not. L'chayra, if you want, you could take off your cap and then you give him the money. But if nobody knows you're Jewish, l'chayra, but you have the nose. I'm not sure. Okay, tzarechim. Okay, so can you return a lost object to a guy? So obviously, if it's the type of thing that it's going to come back to you, they're going to figure out that you found it. Obviously, let's say there's a case you got a lost object and nobody's going to catch you. Whatever the Metzias is, nobody's finding out. So, no, you shouldn't return it. Why are you going taking now Yiddish geld and giving it away? You have no need to return it. However, this is something very strange, because actually before I do it, it's the famous Mesa. Everybody remember 10 years ago or something, 15 years ago, I don't remember. There was a guy in Waterbury that bought a desk on Craigslist, and when he was bringing it home, he had to take off the top to put it through, to get it through the doorway, and he found a plastic bag with $98,000 cash in it. Yeah. Yes. And what did he do? So he went and he called the owner, and said, listen, I found $98,000 cash, and he gave it back. Was that issur? Was that a good thing?
It was on the news, so it's good.
It's on the news, it was good, but they say it's issur because if you have no chiv of shava, then you're giving a present. The pasuk says Lo Sichoneim. Lo Sichoneim. So there's no chiv of shava, zak Yolan. So let's open up a little choshen mishpat. So we have half the room holds it was a Kiddush Hashem, and half the room holds it was a Chil Hashem. So let's see. So the Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat Reish Samach Vav Aleph says they're returning a lost object to a guy you're over Avera. However, if he returns for Kiddush Hashem purposes, Harizem Meshubach. So therefore, the Choshen Mishpat seems to come out that it was a good thing that he returned the money. He made a Kiddush Hashem. He got the news stations there. It was a good thing. Harizem Meshubach. But this is a very strange. I'll get in a second if I don't answer. I think I'm about to. This is very strange. Where do we ever see that doing a Avera that people look and is good? That's a Kiddush Hashem. Listen, if I went to shook that lady's hand, it would have been a Chil Hashem. Now I shook her hand, that's a Kiddush Hashem. No! Yeah, what's going on? It's very strange. It's very strange. Isn't it very strange? You do a Avera in public? I don't know. That's maybe, as I was thinking, maybe once again, back to our Vart, you're not supposed to give a Matana Shalchinam. But now, why are you doing this? You're doing this to make the name of Hashem that people are going to say the Jews are good. Now it's no longer chinam. I'm doing it for a purpose. I'm doing it self-serving. I want to glorify Hashem's name. Once it's self-serving to glorify Hashem's name, it's not a gift of chinam. But Mela, the issur doesn't apply. That's what I was thinking is shot. Because if you don't say this, it's very schwer. How could you have a Kiddush Hashem from doing Avera? In public. So, yeah, maskim. It's good for it. Fine. Okay. The Choshen Mishpat, the same sif in the Choshen Mishpat says that it's a favor to return, but if you be Mekadosh Hashem, then it's a Harizim Meshubach. So it's not some taking a vart from here and a vart from there. It's straight up. Okay. Let's go weiter. Now, can you tip a taxi driver? So if it's a taxi driver that you're going to use again, or you're likely or decent chance of using again, then it's for sure fine. You want him to be nice to you, you want him to show up on time. That's for sure not a problem. That's a transaction. If it's a taxi driver if it's an area where it's customary to tip the taxi driver, that's how it normally works. I think there's, in America, there's always been places where it was normal to tip the taxi driver. So then, once again, it's allowed because that's part of the transaction. It's part of the expected transaction. There's two ways you're paying. You pay the fare, plus you pay the tip. In places where they don't tip, right? In Eretz Yisroel, nobody tips the taxi driver, right? No such thing. Only the American tourists, maybe. Right? No such thing. So if you got an Arab taxi driver and you wanted to tip them, you don't have that heter, l'chayra. However, Zak the Ber Moshe, he was talking in Butter Park, I guess we could say the same thing. I don't know about the tax. I'm not sure how it would apply in Eretz Yisroel. I'm not sure. But he says, the Ber Moshe said that you get a taxi driver, you could tip the taxi driver. Why? Because he'll be good to the next Jew that he picks up. If you tip him, he sees this guy with a beard and payas tipped him, the next guy with the beard and payas that gets in the car, he'll be nice to. Because the Goyim just view us as like one unit. We all look the same. We're like Chinese people. And therefore, it's going to be good. But what if you don't look Jewish? Could you tip the taxi driver? What if you're wearing the baseball cap without the payas sticking out of the baseball cap? You know what I'm saying? Could you tip the taxi driver? So once again, if it's part of the transaction, it's expected in that area, that'd be allowed. It's part of the transaction. What are you tipping him because you want to be a nice guy? L'chayr, that wouldn't be allowed.
But again, if it's a Jewish neighborhood, a lot of Jews around, he's gonna be in a better mood. So he's gonna be nice to the next person, kiddo.
Once again, if you look like a goy ben goy, I don't know. Yeah. With that, you cut off your nose. You got plastic surgery.
It's still not the chinam because you're still going to be helping another Jew. You're going to be in a better mood for the next guy.
Who says he's picking up a Jew next?
I'm saying if it's in Borough Park,
Maybe. I mean, you gotta see.
New Square.
Yeah, if you're in New Square, he knows. He sees the big Yankee cap. He knows what's going on in the Yankee cap in New Square. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Don't tell them that I got the Uber. Yeah, we know what's going on. Okay, fine. Okay, he's left? Okay, great. Now, weiter. Praise. Right? Lo titin lam chen. This is an issur that, nobody knows. I'm sorry, I think nobody knows this issur. The first one, people knew about it a little bit, this matana thing. Some people know about it. I think this one, I could be wrong. I think people just don't know. Well, or either they know it and they just don't keep it. This is I don't know what's going on. Okay, the Shulchan Aruch says, by referring to, oh, by the way, the Rambam says the reason, he gives a shul time in the crowd, the reason why you can't praise them is because you're going to end up coming close to them. And if you come close to them, you're going to end up learning from their ways. So, the Shulchan Aruch says, Asur l'saper b'shvachim. You can't speak about the praise of these goyim. You can't say, oh, this guy is good looking. The man, definitely don't say anything about the women. But even the man, you can't say that they're good looking. And you certainly can't praise their meisav, their actions. That's a kal v'chomer, you can't praise their actions. And you can't say what they said was great. You can't praise their speeches. And I once heard somebody say, oh no, you can't say that the guy is great, but you could say you like what he did. No, actually, Shulchan Aruch says the opposite. He says, you can't say that they're good looking, and kal v'chomer, you can't praise their actions. So you're not allowed to praise them. So what does this mean? Well, the Shulchan Aruch ends with the shtick heter. However, if you have in mind to praise Hashem, that would be okay. Let's put this in perspective. You have in mind to praise Hashem for creating this guy, that would be okay. So, if you say, whoa, that guy who's, he has what a three-pointer. Oh, you see how that guy could dunk? He could dunk like it's nobody's business. You see how he could throw the football, kick the football, whatever? You see how he kicked the soccer ball? Whoa. You see how his power, his shot, his layup, his dunk, he's amazing. Issur. Is this kept? Should I even go a little? Can you say, I love Trump? No. Can you say that Trump is amazing? Trump is you see how Trump destroyed Biden I love him. Can't say that. That's pretty wild because we all say that, right? It's pretty wild, You could say thank you Hashem for giving him such a great 3-point shot. Thank you Hashem for creating a being that could jump from the foul line to the basket. That you could say. But then you'd just be weird. Quoting the speech is fun. But you can't praise. I actually listened to, because I remember hearing something, so I wanted to see how it sounded. A bunch of years ago, they had made this dinner supporting Trump. A bunch of from people in Manhattan made this whole whatever, which I think, by the way, is a very good thing. I think there's no issues. They obviously raised up millions of dollars for him. I don't think there's any issues in matana shel chinam. I think that's well spent money to get what you want. Now, I remember he was introduced by Y.Y. Jacobson. So I went online to go listen to that introduction, and I was actually very impressed. He nailed it. He's like, oh, amazing. I want to thank the God Almighty for creating such an amazing person who did such amazing accomplishments. Thank God for creating somebody who was so good to Israel. And it was, Trump, way over Trump's head, that, thank God point. And he nailed the Shulchan Aruch. He was thanking God. He wasn't praising. He was thanking God for making a Donald Trump. That's exactly what the Shulchan Aruch says is allowed. So he nailed the Shulchan Aruch. Trump felt good without realizing that it was going a little over his head that he was thanking God, not Trump, whatever. And I was a geschmack. He nailed it. I was very impressed when I re-listened to it. Okay, so that's the Vart. Rebelski has a hat there, by the way. He says you could praise a team, not an individual player. You could praise a team. Republicans. Republicans are great. Could you wear a MAGA hat? Yeah, MAGA hat's fine. Yeah. To say Trump is amazing, that's a problem. MAGA hat? I'm part of that team. That's fine. Could you put a poster of Yankel, the good basketball player, on your wall? Well, maybe it's not Yankel, but if it's somebody not named Yankel, l'chayra not. L'chayra not. Yeah, I'll give you a heter. You can put up a Mari Stoudemire. L'chayra you can't. L'chayra you can't. Is there any praise bigger than that? That's the greatest praise. L'chayra is issur. Does anybody know this? Nah. But what about putting up a picture of Trump in your? No. What about a picture of you shaking Trump's hand? That I think you could, because that's geschmack, that's shtick, that's whatever. It's not praise of Trump. It's like me in a shticky position. I think so. I'm not 100% comfortable, but I think so. I think it's okay. But a picture of Trump in your office? Nah. Not cool, right? Fun.
What's issur? What's issur?
Issur. Lo titin lehem chen. You're glorifying them. What greater way of glorifying somebody than putting a picture up of them? By the way, it doesn't mean to their face. The person will say it's not to their face. It's general. What about, I was thinking about this, what's the vart in wearing a jersey of somebody? What is the vart? What's the mindset? Why do you wear jerseys? Is it like just, it's cool a jersey because it's of the team and you have to pick a player? Or is the vart in the jersey, no, I'm wearing a Kobe jersey? Probably depends on the person, right?
That's what I was thinking. Even the guy on the wall, you're supporting the team. It's not that for him.
That's much more of like
you're a Yankees fan, so you want a Yankee on the wall.
It's definitely not an American mindset. I think English people are like that a little bit with soccer. It's not an American mindset. Definitely basketball. Basketball, the individual player is like the Spitz. It's not the team as well. Especially when you have guys like Kobe that take all the shots. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't buy it. Maybe for soccer, yeah, it's such a team sport, maybe. But like basketball, I don't buy it. Football, not as much. Fine. Maybe. Ramesh Sternbach says, Heter, from Ramesh Sternbach. You gotta love the Ramesh Sternbach Heter there, right? He says you could praise their chachma. Because we see that the Rambam praised Aristotle. So you can praise their chachma. This is quite a tightrope. You can't praise their looks. You can't praise their actions. You can't praise their words. But you can praise their chachma. Now, why would that be? I don't know. I don't know what the rationale, so to speak, would be. But he has a raya from that. Yes?
I don't feel how whenever you praise anything about them, it is actually about them. Because isn't everything technically, it's really Hashem? I don't mean that.
If that's your mindset, that's what Shulchan Aruch says. If you say, thank you Hashem for giving me a Donald Trump, gewaldig.
It doesn't even have to be. If I say he's so good at basketball, everyone knows it's not actually him. Like, not even as like a cute from point. He doesn't have it's not him. Like, even if we think it is wrong, we know it actually is from Hashem.
I give a bracha to the world. They should have that type of emunah. Yeah, I don't know. Anybody? I don't think that's what everybody's thinking. My hard work, the sweat of my brow, and that created my talent. You know, as these guys, they mamish think they're Hashem. You know. I don't know. Fine. By the way, I love what Trump. I love that Hashem made a Trump to do the good things that he did for Klal Yisrael. Did I say that right? Fine. I gotta get used to that one, huh? Selling land to an Akum, to a guy. So once again, we had the same machlekes before. Is that specifically to have Ovid Avodah Zarah, or is that to any guy? Now, the simple understanding of the Gemara is it's Asr Midraisa, because it's darshan from the pasuk. Now, and the Smag, the Sefer Mitzvah and the Toisus, they say it's Asr Midraisa. The Rambam also says it's Deraisa. The Kaft of Eferach, which was, I think, early 1200s, he was a Rishon that traveled to Eretz Yisroel. There's a lot of early Dinei Eretz Yisroel that came from the Kaft of Eferach. He says, and the Radbaz as well, based on the Yerushalmi, that it's a Derabanan. Now, definitely does not appear to be the case from looking at the Gemara and Avodah Zarah. Once again, they're quoting Yerushalmi. I would have thought Machlekes, Bavli, Yerushalmi, you go with the Bavli. Maybe the Yerushalmi is Mefurish and the Bavli is not Mefurish. I don't know what. But they go that it's only Derabanan. The accepted opinion is that selling land to a guy is Asr Midraisa, like the Rambam. Now the Gemara says, Lo titin lahem chania b'karka. You can't sell them land, which we understand to mean you can't sell them land. You can't give them an encampment. You can't give them a place to be in Eretz Yisrael. There actually is some hak whether you're allowed to sell them in Chutz La'aretz, but the Mesa we say you cannot sell them. It only applies in Eretz Yisrael. Now, what if a guy already owns land in Eretz Yisrael? I'm not giving them chania ba'aretz. They already have land. They just want another property. I'm selling to a goyish investor. He already owns property. He already has a place to be. Could I sell him another place to be? So, the Tyrus Chesed, Rav Shner Zalman of Lublin, says that you could. You don't give him chania b'karka. There's not chania. They already have. Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank and Rav Yitzchak Elchanan relied on this Tyrus Chesed in the famous initial heter of heter mechira, which, to be clear, as every year, shiur heter mechira, originally it was done because they were going to starve to death. So they needed to find a heter not to starve to death, because starving to death is not fun. So therefore they needed a heter. So Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank and Rav Yitzchak Elchanan relied on this Tyrus Chesed to say that if the guy already owns land, you could sell him more land. The Chazon Ish and Rav Kook were famously adamantly against this and said obviously you cannot sell him land. And when we look at the Shulchan Aruch, it says, you can't sell them land. It doesn't say give them chaniya b'karka. It's true there is some mashmois of this in the Gemara, but in the Maisa we understand it to mean not selling them any land. However, there's the pashas of the Shulchan Aruch is you can't sell them any land, but a ger toshev you are allowed to sell land to. Now, and once again, who's a ger toshev? A ger toshev is somebody who agreed to keep the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach and agreed that some of the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael. Let me ask you something. Is an Arab a ger toshev?
No.
So if you find an Arab that doesn't steal and doesn't do adultery,
Yeah, but he's not doing it because the Torah said so. He's doing it because the Quran or whatever. It's not Torah's Moshe. No?
I don't know. I'm not arguing with you. It's interesting. He's agreed to keep these 7 mitzvahs based on godly desire. He might have a warped view of what God is, but based on godly desire, he's keeping these 7 things. I wonder. Let me ask you another question. Does he believe that the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael? Yeah, if he knows his studies well. If he studied whatever, history a little bit of Islam, he knows that Islam agrees to this. I imagine they do have that knowledge. I'm not really sure if they do. Maybe. But, so maybe he is good.
But when you ask him why he's not doing A, B, and C, he's not going Yaakov Tali because the Torah that Hashem, God gave to Moses, to the Jewish people, said that me as a non-Jew am not allowed to do A, B, and C. So they said because
God says I can't.
But it's not Torah itself.
No, I agree. It's not based on the Torah, but it is based on God. The question is, could you skip the middle step? I don't know the answer. One thing is the Rambam for sure doesn't work because the Rambam says we don't make ger toshiv nowadays. Only bisman yovel could we make somebody into a ger toshiv. So just keeping the 7 mitzvahs b'nei noach, even if you live in Texas and you keep the 7 mitzvahs b'nei noach because you watch Rabbi Tuvia Singer's thing nightly, and you live in Texas and you're mamash a ger toshiv l'chol hadei, I mean, keeping everything. But you're a Noahite, yeah. However, that according to the Rambam, that won't help to make you a ger toshiv. Okay. By the way, the Ravid argues. And the Ravid says, sure, you could be, what's the problem? Sure you could be a ger toshiv nowadays. So I agree, the Arabs, Pashtus, are not going to be ger toshiv, and most of them steal anyways. So it's not so pashut. There's a story, somebody that I know, and somebody that a lot of people here know also, that he owned a property in a neighborhood where it was a mixed neighborhood, Jewish-Arab neighborhood, and he bought in a building which was mostly Jews, and little by little, each Jew in the building ended up selling out to Arabs. And his apartment was the only Jewish-owned apartment left in the building. The rest of the building was Arabs. Now, it's not so easy to get a Jewish tenant, in a building filled with Arabs. And, it's not so geschmack having an Arab tenant, because what do you do if he doesn't pay? So this person wanted to get out of this situation. So what could he do? So he went to a Adam Gadol and told him his story, and he wanted to sell it. But who was looking to buy the apartment? An Arab, because Jews didn't want to buy an apartment in a building full of Arabs. So all he was able to find when he put it on the market was Arabs. So he went to Adam Gadol and asked him what he could do. And the Adam Gadol said, don't say it in my name. I mean, I know his name, but don't say it in my name. And he said that you could sell it because the Rambam says that you're not allowed to sell land to an Akum. And the simple pshat is Ovid Avodah Zarah. And that doesn't include an Arab, because an Arab is not an Ovid Avodah Zarah. And therefore, you could sell it to that Arab. But don't say it in my name. So that's the psak that he got, and he went and he sold it. When he went to sell it, originally the Arab said he's going to put it under his wife's name. So he sold it there, put it under his wife's name. When they were closing, they were talking, the Arab and this guy that I know, and the Arab mentioned, by the way, my wife is Jewish. So it ended up getting sold to a Jew. I'm not so sure whether it's a happy story or a sad story or I don't know what, but it's definitely an interesting story. And the Maisa, the Kuli Alma, it wasn't sold to a guy. But the Maisa, he got that heter, so it's definitely a Geshmaka story. Okay, once we're on this issur of giving matanas to goyim, we're just going to take a little side. We are in December, right? Is that? So we're going to talk about a little nekuda that comes up for a lot of people in the business world. Now, there's a din that you're not allowed to give a matana to a goy within 3 days of their chag, to Ovid Avodah Zarah, within 3 days of their chag. Why? Because if you give him, you're not even allowed to do business with him. Forget matana, actually. You're not even allowed to do business with the guy within 3 days of his chag, because he's going to go and praise his avodah zarah. Thank you, whatever, for setting me up with this great business deal. So no business deals within 3 days. Now the Poskim said a long time ago, we switched that to 1 day in Chutz La'aretz. In Chutz La'aretz, that issur was the Rabbanon. In Chutz La'aretz, that issur was reduced to 1 day, because you can't live amongst the Goyim and not do business with them for 3 days before every one of their chags, and it will create Eva. Now, fine. Now, the post now, if that's going to be the case by business, kal v'chomer, you can't give them matana. Because if you can't do business with them because they're going to praise their God, you certainly can't give them a gift because they're going to praise their God. Remember, we said you're not allowed to give them a gift in general, but if it's for your self-serving the gift, you're allowed to. So you can't give them a self-serving gift within 1 day of their Chag. Now, there are some heterim nowadays that some people say nowadays the goyim aren't that religious, but it really depends on which goy. As we said, not all goyim are created equal. Christianity, we discussed earlier, is a big machlokes. You definitely have some goyim, religious Christians, are definitely, I don't know, you got your Hindu, Buddhist, I don't know what's going on over there. They're for sure Ovid Avodah Zarah, so it's all not so simple. Lamaisa, giving matana before their Chag should be avoided. But what do you mean? Nowadays, in today's business world, it's standard practice. You're expected to give your coworker, your boss, your employees a present for end of December. So the 8th is very simple. Give it on December 20th. You should make sure to give it on December 20th and say, here's your December present. They'll get it. They won't ask any questions. They don't have any issues of Zrizim Makdimim. They're fine with Zrizim Makdimim. You give it a couple days before. You avoid the Shiloh altogether. It's better not to say Mefurish that it's for Xmas or whatever. It's better to say, here's your gift for December. If you have to, for the holiday season, because that's some form of I don't know what. And if you have to say, you say, but it's better you should give it a couple days in advance. At least don't give it in the Boi B'Yom. Boi B'Yom is a problem. Don't give it December 25th. Okay, fine. So that is that. Now, what about if you receive a present of non-kosher food? This happens all the time. You know, the company sends out to all their employees a chocolate basket, the Chvoid December. Yeah? What do you do with that chocolate basket? Could you re-gift it? You know, you have your people that you need to give gifts to. So could you re-gift that chocolate basket? So, one more time, you need obviously the heter of Lo Sichoneim. So it has to be a case where there's some benefit for you, or you're repaying a good that somebody did to you, as we discussed. Number 2, if it's a food that is issur midarabanan, it's not kosher midarabanan, which is going to be most non-fleishiks, is going to be issur darabanan. If it's issur darabanan, there's no issur of doing business with the food, and therefore the question doesn't start. You're allowed to give. There's chocolates, you could give it to whoever you want. And it's not, you don't have to worry about you're doing business with food. But what if they decide to give you Tony's meat board? Did the Goyim find out about the meat boards yet? They're holding there yet? No. When the Goyim find out about the meat boards, yeah. So they always had meat boards. So when the biltong, when the Goy sends you some biltong, yeah, as some Goyish South African Goyish biltong, right? What do you do with that? Now that's issur midaraisa, right? That's treif midaraisa. Nevelis, treifas, all the good stuff, yeah. So are you allowed to do business with? Are you allowed to do business with food that is issur midaraisa, that is not kosher midaraisa? So you're not allowed to do business with it. So how could you go and could you re-gift it? It's a problem. No, there's a heter. The heter is in this damnu. If you're not allowed to go buy a non-kosher midaraisa to give it out to somebody, but if it just falls in your lap, you got a present, you are allowed to regift it. We see that when you get in the vela, you're allowed to sell it to the guy. So too, when you get this present, you go and sell it to the guy. One more common case, you get a bottle of wine from the guy. Happens all the time. Now, what is this wine? It's not kosher wine. This is stam yainim. Right? This is wine that the guy touched. Which guy? Meaning the guy when they were making the wine, it was in the presence of a goyim. They were touching and doing whatever they're doing. That's stam yainim. That's us. That's us. You can't drink that. Now, is stam yain issur deraisa or derabanan? Derabanan, right? Yain nesach mamish of his port avodah zarah. That's issur midaraisa. Stam yain is issur midarabanan. So could I go and regift it? So it depends. If you're a Sephardi, so the Sephardim hold that stam yainim is issur b'hana. So you don't have the issur of doing business with treif, but if it's issur b'hana, you can't re-gift it because b'manav shach. If you're doing it for business purposes, if you're doing it because you're going to get back in the future, that's hana. You can't get enough from it. And if you're just being a good guy and you're getting no enough from it, then you have the issur of Lo Sichoneim. You can't give a gift. So you're messed over either way. And therefore, if you're a guy, you just have to throw that wine in the garbage. If you're Sephardi, you have to throw that in the garbage. If you if you're Ashkenazi, then there's no issur hana on stam yainin, and if there's no issur hana on stam yainin, so now you're allowed to get enough from it. So what do? You give it to somebody where there's financial interest or some interest in you giving it to that guy. So now the mailman's going to be nice to you. If the mailman's going to be nice to you when you give him the bottle of wine, great, and you could re-gift the bottle of wine. Now, could the Sephardi let his Ashkenazi neighbor take the bottle of wine from him? L'chayra not. Because l'chayra, the Sephardi is going to get toivus hana from letting the Ashkenazi neighbor take it and give it to the mailman. So l'chayra, that would be a problem. Now, could the Ashkenazi, when the Sephardi is not looking, could the Ashkenazi steal the wine from him? L'chayra, yes. Is there issur gneva? L'chayra not. If there's no value to the Sephardi, I'm not sure about this. I'm thinking. I'm not sure. But I think if there's no value to the Sephardi, then there would be no issur gneva, I think, for the Ashkenazi to steal the bottle of wine, and then he could go and gift it. But I'm not positive on that, but I think so.
Some say surana shaloi, it's also not, then he can't take it.
Oh, because he has ownership in it.
Yeah, and others say surana means you don't have it.
Okay, so apparently I was mechaven to some famous chakira. Okay, fine. Famous chakira. How do we paskin the Uri?
No, it's both ways.
All right, we don't paskin this. Okay. Geneva is the Reisa, Safet the Reisa Chumra, Nebuch. Okay, thank you for listening, everybody. See you again next week.